happy to see all of you again and some new people. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can jump right in, because I definitely want to save some time at the end for questions. So let me go ahead and do that. You may have to go ahead and give me some permission to go ahead and do that, Karen, because I am disabled. So
okay.
Right now, yeah. So go ahead and hit share screen and give me permission to go ahead and do that. If you hit
that work?
share, no, let me see, share screen. Yeah, okay, I got it. All right. Okay, I just want to make sure everybody tell me that you can see this. Let me bring it up.
Yeah.
Screen. Okay, great. All right, so yes, this is our second phase of the presentation. Last week we did products, which is a pricing strategy that's very different. There were about 8 different opportunities to price a product. We don't have that many for pricing services, so I will tell you we won't be going through as many. I will share a few fun facts about me that was not covered before. So I am a serial entrepreneur. Many people will call me a startup junkie, so it is kind of appropriate with building 6 companies from scratch. So I'm perfectly fine with either one. I am an inventor, a former patent holder. I did sell everything from my first company. And I do believe, don't let perfection be the enemy of good. Don't wait to launch, whether it's your company or a campaign, something that can move the needle, because it'll never be perfect. And you keep waiting and waiting and waiting, and it will just be a hobby because you'll be bringing nothing to the table and no revenue. And my passion really is building companies, whether it's mine or helping other entrepreneurs build theirs. And I did innovate the S.T.A.R.T blueprint about 15 years ago, and I incorporated into companies across the board, and it is proprietary and it's outcomes based. I have 3 children, a husband, a dog, a cat. It's pretty vanilla, isn't it? But kind of vanilla and boring is pretty good. So let's get started. I get a lot of, goals. I'm very goal focused, but I like simplicity. So here's what I have in mind. So if you're an existing business owner right now, I want you to identify your current pricing strategy as we go along and ask yourself, is it working? Am I just breaking even? Which I don't think is good enough. Breaking even is just not good enough in business. Are you in the red right now? That's not good enough at all, because that's a hobby. That's not a business. So if it's not working, then let's look at identifying new pricing strategies right off the bat. And then if you are happy with what's working and you're making money and things are going great, you've got good momentum, I want you to look at maybe an add-on revenue driver to take it to the next level. For those of you who are new business owners on here, let's identify a really good pricing strategy for you to start off right from the beginning and not be in the red and not be in a situation where you're just breaking even. So that's kind of my goals, depending on where anybody's at right now. All right, so what is your ideal pricing? Let's take a look at what is ideal pricing. Well, of course, it's one that will convince your right fit client to purchase your offering, which is your service, what your business is all about, that will take business away from competitors who offer the same thing you do. So if you're a coach, you're a consultant, agency, whatever you offer, there's a lot of competition out there. So you want them to come to you and do business with you and not anybody else. But how do you do it? Well, you have to come out with pricing that is agreeable to them. And what does that mean? Well, you have to come up with pricing that is mutually beneficial between both of you. You have to make sure you consider your revenue goals. What are your marketing objectives? You have to look at your target audience and make sure they are your right fit customers. And that goes to brand positioning. Have you branded your product, which part of my blueprint is you never build your company before you build your brand, because that allows you to build your worth, your value, get that target audience in line, and be able to message it. Then you really pull out those service attributes, which are your competitive differentiators. You have to look at consumer demand. Do people really need your services and really want them? So all of this is considered in the pricing strategy. And of course, you got to look at your competitors. You can't be super over the top, whereas they're kind of within the marketplace. And that goes into market and economic trends. Expenses. Are you in your home or do you have rent to pay? So that goes into fixed and variables. You also have to look at discounts. You know, there may be specials during the year that you want to offer, and that has to be factored in to losing less income throughout the year. Payroll. Do you have employees? And what type of salary are you going to take in order to cover your everyday expenses for living? And if you have a family to support. And then what are your profit margins? Because everybody has to account for profit. And I will get into that. The one thing that a lot of people forget, and it isn't just small businesses. I have been brought into mid-sized corporations. I specialize in biotech. That's been a huge part of my career. And I go in turnaround strategies and I say, well, what is your marketing budget? What have you been putting into marketing? And how has that impacted your pricing of the product? And they look at me and go, what? Marketing has to be factored in to the price of your product. As I said, to products, every widget that rolls off the assembly line, there has to be a price for marketing. Services are the same. You still have to promote your services, whether it be with Facebook ads, a convention you go to, different types of print, direct mail, you have traditional and digital. So what is your budget? And that gets factored in to overhead. And a lot of people skip this part. So marketing is a huge part of pricing. And I don't want you to forget about that. And that is something that I find that a lot of companies do, both big and small. So please make sure you put a budget in here. So I want to talk about the 3 musts. When you're coming up with a pricing strategy, whether it's a product or a service, everyone has to cover their overhead. And that goes right down to the penny. When you're looking at your services, you may think, oh, I don't have that much overhead the way a product would. Like they've got ingredients, they have manufacturing and materials and shipping and packaging and oh my gosh, and you're right. They have so much over the top in overhead. You're like, I just work out of my home, but you have website platforms, you've got email platforms, you have a cell phone. You may have automation if you're doing courses, you know, like the Kajabi, the Thinkific, the Ever webinars, the Zoom webinars. I mean, there are a lot of automations you have to consider. So that's all considered overhead and paying vendors. And if you're doing direct mail, you've got postage. There's a lot that goes into this. Every cent has to be accounted for. And you've got to pay yourself. And you've got to pay yourself what you are worth. And that means taking into consideration your expertise, your education, any certificates you have. If you have certain technology platforms that are different from everybody else, you have to account for your lifestyle. If you left a corporate job, did you go into entrepreneurship to make 50% less in owning your own business? I don't know if people do that, right? So you have to come up with a salary that's appropriate and what you want to live off of. I mean, if you're okay with going and doing a part-time business and you're okay with making half the salary, that's a personal choice. But come up with a salary that is factored in. And then the third one, and this is what people both with products and services, I typically find they don't add into the pricing is a profit. They think that their salary is part of that, and it's not. You have to add a percentage on to what you charge, whether you're doing it on an hourly rate or on the project, which we're going to get into the different types of how you can bill in services. You have to go ahead and add that like a percentage. And that is used for emergencies and for scaling for the future in order to grow your business, to sustain it. Because nobody goes into business to go out of business, right? Or maybe you only want to do it a year or two. You've gone into this to be able to scale and drive revenue for the future and be in it for a while, right? And so scaling is something that maybe you want to go ahead and add a different, an upgraded automation that can make you more effective. And maybe you want to get out of the house and add employees and go into an office. There are different things that you're going to need money for. Or emergency fund. Let's talk about Cheesecake Factory. They didn't even have enough money to pay rent for 6 weeks because they had no cash flow. And cash flow comes from a buffer. And a buffer isn't just paycheck to paycheck. It's having profit and margins that allows you to have a cushion and not paycheck to paycheck. So there's got to be money put aside and set for you to have that percentage on top of just, this is what I make per hour, and I'm just getting through it. These are the 3 musts for even service-based businesses. So I always say, it's not something that we just kind of add at the end and figure out. It's something that you plan right now from the beginning. So ask yourself with your business, do you have money set aside in the bank that's that percentage of profit that you've added on to an hourly rate for a project? So I want to talk about you. This is perception. In both products and services, there's a perception, but it's a little bit different when we talk about services. So when we price high, there's always a perception that it's more valuable. And when you build a really strong brand, it is a known fact that if you have demonstrated a really high value prop, that you are worthy of the price, and people can command a price 14% higher than somebody out there who has not demonstrated that they will give somebody results, that they will demonstrate that they will solve a problem, and that they have trust that you're an industry leader and you can command that value. So they won't turn over the money and give you the higher price over a competitor unless you have demonstrated that you have competitive differentiators. That comes from brand right off the bat. So higher prices will reflect that you can deliver. If you come with this low price, it doesn't portray your expertise, your talent, your knowledge, and your self-confidence that you have the ability to do it. So if you undercut yourself, it looks as if you don't value your own talent, that you're not confident compared to the competitors out there, that you can deliver the goods, and that your product is going to be subpar. And it really looks like you're not an industry leader and have authority. And people are going to be expecting that you're going to disappoint them. You're not going to satisfy them. And it's kind of just this perception. Branding is perception. And so when you price your services, you have to be careful with this. You don't want to have that perception. And so, especially when you are new and you enter the marketplace, this is where you have to have a fine balance. And I want everybody to feel that they are worthy of coming into our marketplace and pricing for what they are worth. And this is all about self-confidence. And self-confidence comes from building a brand that is strong enough to demonstrate value, competitive differentiators, and being able to say, I deserve this because I'm confident enough with my background, with my expertise, and with my talent that I deserve it. And people will get the perception that you are and that you're going to deliver the goods. So perception is reality. Now, if you go with a weak pricing strategy, I will tell you right off the bat, people pick up on it, and you will not get that 14% greater price that you can command right off the bat. And it will make your customers question, feel tentative, and they won't sign the contract. They just won't do it. They will go to a competitor. And what it'll make you feel is that you didn't target the right customer. You may have said, okay, some preferred value, some preferred, the upper luxury, some are really price conscious. Did I just not do my market demographics? Did I just not know my customer? Did I go after the wrong target from the very beginning? Again, went back to brand. You need to know your customers better than they know themselves. You need to know your target industry better than you know the target industry than your competitors. You have to do your homework from the beginning. So a weak pricing strategy, if you start there from the beginning, it doesn't go well for the future. So you can see how important pricing your product right from the beginning before you even launch, or if you're in a situation right now, you've got to take a step back, go back to your brand, see if you've done the steps that I just said as far as value and competitive differentiators, and really go and see how you can fix it. Because if you're not making the money now, you're going to have a hard time making the money as you move forward. So let's take a look at the different pricing strategies and let's see which ones are for you. And if you're already doing some of these, let's see if they're working. So let's talk about your hourly rate and estimating your value. And then is your rate is a big part of how your clients perceive you again. So if you go in too low, they're going to be like, she's undervaluing herself. She doesn't think much of her. And then the pricing starts from within. So when we look at an hourly rate, we're going to start with penetration pricing strategy. So for you who is a startup, this is what most people do. They say, I'm brand new. Okay, I'm going to go set a low price. Okay, you don't want to set a really low price because once you get stuck with a low price, then it's really hard to raise it. Everybody just thinks you're the low man on the block. They get used to you being the low one on the block. And that's what you're known as. That's what your brand is the cheapy one. And you're going to attract all the cheap customers who just want a deal from you. They don't care what you offer. They figure, I'll just take it for the next year and then I'll find somebody better. Let me just get started with them. And then you'll never attract the better customers out there that can pay you enough. And your business will never be able to cover the overhead, pay you. You'll barely be getting by. And eventually your business is not going to make it. These will not be the right fit customers. You only set a low price or sometimes get free so that you can just get testimonials. That's it. That price is not your price. You say to them right off the bat, look, I will give you a discounted price, or I will do this pro bono, but I just want a testimonial for you. This is not what I typically charge. These are my typical prices, which will be what you charge permanently. But this is a discount for you, and I am building my portfolio, and I would like you to give me referrals. This is a quid pro quo type of situation, if you are penetrating the market as a startup, as a new business, this is a strategy for new people. Then once you get the referrals, guess what you're charging them? Your real prices to take care of those 3 musts, right? Then, after you've established it, guess what? Those prices, step by step, all going up. So when those people who gave you testimonials, hey, you want new services done for me? You remember those initial costs that I gave you that were free? Now that we've established a relationship, you got to pay full price. So you want more stuff done? You now want that website I gave to you for a discount for a testimonial. Now you want SEO. Now you want management. Those are full price. So that's a penetration strategy that moves into scaling. That's a smart way to go, but it's not forever. So this could be what comes out to be forever. The simplest one is hourly, and this is what most people do, which is super, super easy. You just decide, how much am I going to charge? What am I worth? Am I worth $100 an hour? Am I worth $150 an hour, $200, based on my expertise, my experience? I've been doing this for 25 years in corporate America, and now I'm branching out on my own. I want to work 40 hours a week. This is how many clients I need. You add it up, and that's how you come up with your formula of how much you've got to make per year. Okay, super simple, super streamlined. Here are the drawbacks. If you charge $150 to $200 an hour, there can be some sticker shock for people. If you're a mindset coach, most people do not know what mindset coaches should charge. They just don't know what they don't know. And there can be hesitation with that. You mean $200 an hour? So it's a little bit difficult for people to relate to that. They feel like they're overpaying. They don't really have control too. They're like, if you're going to do a lot of work for me, how many hours is this going to be? How can I track? If there's kind of a trust issue, they don't know if you're really going to be giving them that many hours. Then they want to cap you the number of hours. The problem with that is, can you really move the needle if they only want to pay you 10? But it could take 15 to 20 for you to really provide the value. It's just a little bit of hesitation. So I don't like hourly billing at all. Plus, you've got to go and keep track of all these hours. It's a lot more administrative work for you. I'm not a fan of it, but a lot of people go this direction. And I find a lot of coaches do this. I do find that a lot of people who do graphic design or social media or, business consultants, this just seems to be the way it goes. So this is one way to calculate it. Like I said, determine the salary you want, take that number and divide it by 52 numbers of working weeks. You're going to work 40 hours a week. Take that number and mark it up by 25 to 50%. Because we got some profit margin in there, don't we? Right? Right? So you want a salary of $60,000, right? You've decided. You left corporate America, wherever you came from, this is how much you want. Divided by 52 gives you a little over 1,100. Divided by 40 gives you $28 an hour, a markup of 40%. All right, get some money in the bank. So your hourly rate is about 40 bucks. Okay. The markup covers expertise, business expenses, overhead, benefits, taxes. a little bit of money in the bank. Okay? That's how you do it. And I think everybody in this room right now is going to be worth a lot more than $40 an hour, especially if you live in very expensive areas. Retainer agreements. If you have clients who you have built trust, I love retainer agreements. I'm on several of these. This is where you receive a monthly fee for working with a client for a set amount of hours. You have come to an agreement that they want 15 or 20 hours a month time with you, okay? Or they just say, I want you to provide value and do this much work and give me this much in deliverables. Just get it done. This is predictable for both of you. You say, I'm going to do all of this, and you get it all done. That's it. The downside is they may feel you're on call 24 hours a day and want to monopolize you. And this is where you have to say, set clear boundaries. This is what I'm available on email. This is the amount of phone calls I'm going to take. Okay. And this is how you can reach me and during what hours. All right. I have been in situations where it's like I'm at your beck and call. No, you can't do that, because at the end of the day, this could be off the tracks and you only have allocated maybe 10 hours a month for this. And now we're up to 25. That can't happen. You've got to have good communication between the two of you, but it's very value-based. Okay. They know what to expect from you and you deliver it. And whether it takes you 10 hours or 15 hours, give them what they want, move the needle, give them results. And they pay you every month for that. And they know that it's going to take about 10 to 15 hours. You both agree on that. Now, this is one where it's discrimination pricing. And this is if you have a nonprofit, is typically versus a for-profit. I see a lot of this, and I do this as well. I do a lot of services for nonprofits, and I know that they don't bring as much money in as for-profits. And so although my time is the same, regardless of which one I do provide services. I set aside, not many of them, because the work is the same, the hours are the same time. So you can't, you've got to allocate for your business what you can handle. And it's a little bit of, less revenue. But I do feel in good faith that profits for what they're doing and ones that I feel passionate about, I do allocate 1 to 2 of both time and reduction in price. And you are able to take tax write-offs by going ahead and working with nonprofits. So look at tax benefits with this by providing pricing strategies in the discrimination strategy factor. And that's something like, movie theaters do this, just kind of look at that type of example. HubSpot in Drift. This is product-based, but you can get the idea where startups will get a different pricing strategy versus an established company where they are driving more revenue, they're more established. So it's just a little bit more fluid and a little more flexible. So kind of think about that. If you have a new client who just would love to have your services, wants to build a relationship with you, they just can't afford as much, but later they will. Give them a slight break of maybe 10% for goodwill, because in the future, you're going to get a lot more business. So right now, if you're not in that situation, you're not offering that, this could be a really good opportunity to be thinking more globally, more macro, and more in the future to take on a client like this, knowing the potential is going to be really huge. So if you have it in your time, budget, like time resources, This could be something to be thinking about. Pay for results. This one's tricky. If your client doesn't improve, you get nothing. Okay, this is a contract that is big or nothing. So you can win big or you can lose. But if you win big, the payday is substantial. Okay, but this is one that you have to be really established. But it's so outcomes based. So when you sign the contract, the deliverables are really, really solid. You've got to have the right fit customers, and you have to have incredible data analytics with this. You've got to measure the progress. You've got to demonstrate results. So for those of you who have been in business for a very long time, you've got unbelievable documentation, unbelievable testimonials, and you have such an outcomes-based business. You basically sign a contract for your services, for your consulting and coaching businesses, where you can demonstrate outcomes that you are so confident that they pay nothing up front, no deposits, nothing until you demonstrate that you can move the needle a certain percentage that you've guaranteed to them. And they pay big time, more than they would ever pay if you set up your typical pricing strategy from the beginning. It's a risk, but you've got to feel pretty confident that you have done it so much in the past for customers that you're willing to take it. This is the one that I have seen work. This is, a formula where it's a flat rate. So you determine how many hours you estimate the job will take based on your experience. You've been doing this a very long time. Add 10 to 20% on the project for unexpected contingencies, and also profit, because you typically don't expect unexpected contingencies based on your experience. There's no tracking your hours here. Okay, that's why I kind of like it. And so the customers know exactly what to expect. They get an actual amount. So you're bidding accurately to avoid losing money. You define and reinforce predetermined scope of work right in detail. That's it. And you add a clause in your contract to include any additional work outside that predetermined rate. So it's like project-based, right? That's it. This is what I'm going to do for you with these set deliverables. If you make changes, we're going out of the scope of work. I will charge you $150 an hour for anything you edit outside of what we have agreed upon. Everybody's on the same page. And what's really great about this is that you know how many hours it's going to take for that set amount. And it could be a lot less than what they're really expecting. So let's say you build a website, and you know the average cost of building a website out there, it's very competitively priced. You're much more of an expert. You have really great technology out there. It's about $5,000. And they're like, yeah, it's about $5,000. That looks about other bids that we have seen out there. We're going to go with you. We really love you. It's about $5,000. And you've built many of these websites before, and you have unbelievable technology that is very automated. You are really an expert at this. You know that it's not going to take as many hours to build this $5,000 website. You really know that. It's probably only going to take you about 2 weeks, where they're thinking it's going to take 4 weeks. and you can also work on other projects. It's not even going to be a full-time gig to create it. You're going to make quite a bit of money on this, as well as probably 20% profit. It's a good deal. I want to talk about value-based pricing as well. This is kind of the newest way to price services, as well as products. It's all about the customer dictating to you what they are going to pay. It is solely based on their desire, their urgency, the complexity of a situation. After conducting a lot of interviews, surveys, market research, and buyer persona, it is completely customized, flexible. I like the fact that it really builds brand loyalty and can boost the customer sentiment. So let me explain what this is. It is not designing your service, determining the cost, and then trying to convince them that this is what they have. So if you have a service, you have a detailed conversation, you sit down with the prospect, you understand everything they want, and then you agree that the value you're bringing to the table with your services and the problem you're going to solve, the customer's like, wow. And the customer says to you, but I only want this, this, and this. And you go, fine, I'm going to give you this, this, and this, that I wouldn't to the other person. They would pay for this. So the customer just dictated to you what they want. And then you look at your overhead and say, can I do it for that? And you have to determine that. Now you're going to be working less hours. You're going to be less overheads going into it. You're going to have to figure out that sweet spot. But the customer loves it. The value, they dictated what their needs are. That's value-based. And you came up with a solution and provided exactly what they wanted. And a good example too is the way this fluid-based pricing works. This value is that you would charge more when you bid this out to a CEO with a Fortune 500 company because they have a lot more revenue. And what's interesting here is that when you provide value to a CEO and coaching that CEO who's going to bring those coaching skills to their management, and they're going to move the needle so much and provide value to their managers to create even more revenue, they are going to have the opportunity to have more dramatic improvement. So you see how the value wheel works so beautifully. Versus a local nonprofit CEO, when you're coaching them, they don't have as many people. They won't have as many dollar amount of resources. So you look at the value price isn't going to be as high as a group. So you provide a lower price for them. It's fluid based on the needs of the customer, what they are going to move the needle in their business, and the amount of hours, time, and resources you're going to put in it, making sure you cover your overhead. I want to talk about leaving money on the table. When people give excuses that they can't afford something right now, it's often not a priority for them to pay for it. The client disagrees. I want you to counter with another rate. That's what they do. They come to you and say, I'm going to pay this. They tell you a rate that other people have told them. Other consultants. This is what I've paid before. They simply say it's just too high. It's amazing how with services, everybody wants to counter. Whereas if they walked into Macy's and they saw a pair of jeans and said, I don't want to pay 110, I'm going to give you 95. They never do that, but they always want to push back on our services. It's quite annoying, but they do it because they can. Don't be afraid to negotiate. Do it with professionalism, confidence, patience. Agree to have the conversation. Research the scope of work. Make sure that you set up a date to review the new proposal. Don't walk away. Determine if you can adjust your budget to their budget. Apples to apples. Offer payment plans in stages so that you can provide value for them, move the needle for them, do things in chunks. I can give you this with these results for right now, and then we can circle back and we can do the rest in 6 months. That way, when they see the results, they certainly want to go back and do business with you. Make sure you don't lose them as a client, but at the same time, you don't lose overhead and profit, and making sure you can pay yourself. And if they certainly can't come to terms with you, walk away. But don't be afraid to negotiate, because this could be a great client. They just don't know what they know. They don't know. And sometimes people just want a deal, right? But they still want to work with you. They still like what you have to offer. They may just not really still have it in their budget and do have a pricing chip. So try and make it easy. And here's one. Please say goodbye to friends and family requests. Okay? Don't give your services out to friends and family, because it takes away from paying clients. Okay, that you can't do it. That's all I'm going to say. And then free consults. Don't get on the phone unless it's a discovery call. Don't give free advice. 15 minutes. Ask lots of questions. Find out their needs. What are they speaking to you about? Share your expertise and why you're the best person for the job, your unique value, your competitive differentiations, how you will do it better, and end the call with, I will get a proposal to you. Let's get a time on the calendar for me to discuss it. Talk less, listen more. Do not tell them how you do anything, because then they will go look it up themselves to figure it out, or where they will use all of your information to go compare it to somebody else. No. No free info. And no more free family discounts. And please keep it streamlined. Do your market research. Only provide services, only a few that your customers want. Keep it simple for yourself. Add later as they're in love with what you have, love your brand, customer loyalty, providing testimonials. And when you're ready to scale and add more consulting services, coaching services, agency services to drive more revenue, then do it at the appropriate time. And then always let them know that if you're building a website, you also can manage it. You can provide SEO. You can offer social media. They don't know sometimes what they don't know. They may not know you offer all of that. If you offer career counseling where you build resumes, let them know you can also write cover letters, and you can also help them with interview skills. Always let them know you are an expert doing more. It's additional revenue for you and building relationships. Here are my final thoughts. Be thoughtful and data focused with your pricing strategies. It is so important. It determines your sustainability. Price your product and service to pay yourself, your bills, and your future so you can stay out of the red. Price your service that reflects your brand identity, the perceived value, solutions, and results. Price your service always with your customers in mind. Price it with your business in mind. It's a mutually beneficial relationship. Always expect to negotiate. Don't take it personally when they say, I've compared you with the client. It's not in my budget. I can't afford you. Nobody else is charging that. Make it work for both of you. It's not that they don't see your value. It's just sometimes they don't know what people should be charging. They don't know if they can afford it. Always introduce new ways to increase revenue opportunities with cross-sell, upsell. Your business isn't just for right now, it's for the future. And I'm going to offer you a special promotion today. Achieve greater than 20% higher open rates in your email marketing. Everybody should be doing to nurture and convert customers. It has a 4,300% return on investment out of all marketing campaigns. So I have a free course with the entire PDF of my best practices, and it's worth over $500 for all of you showing up today. Just email me at goldfish@8simplesteps.net, and